Hello and welcome to Brilliance Today, where individuals let their brilliance shine through their stories, expertise and philosophy, because they're on a mission to make a difference and leave a legacy. Introducing Brenda Dempsey, publisher, speaker and TV presenter. Get ready to be inspired.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Brilliance Today. And by golly, get your sunglasses on, because I have got an amazing woman that we're going to talk to today. But first of all, behind every great woman is another great woman. And today our guest is Lyndsay Dowd, all the way from the US of A.
Thanks for having me, Brenda.
Thanks very much. This is going to be high energy, absolutely, for sure. And before we start, Lyndsay, I know there's something about you that I love, and it's that you talk about a heartbeat for hire. So can you just give us a quick intro, who you are and why you call yourself the heartbeat for hire?
I would love to. So thank you again. It's such a great opportunity. So my story starts, I spent 23 years working for IBM, 25 years in corporate America. I used to run big sales teams for them. And my family put in 105 years at Big Blue. So it was truly a legacy that I was a part of. And at the end of 23 years, I was ready for a change, and another company sought me out and said, hey, would you come over and run a sales team for us? And I said, sure. So I took everything I knew and my Big Blue legacy, and I went to this other company, and I knew it was going to be hard, but I'm a maverick. I'm a hustler. I figure it out. I've done hard things. And in 6 months' time, they fired me. Oh. And anyone that knows me knows that was not part of my plan. And I was gutted. I was so upset. I took it really personally. And I didn't know that every executive at this level gets fired once or twice in their life. But at the time, I thought I had a scarlet letter. I thought, who would ever want to work with me again? And for a month, I really was very down. And after that month, I asked myself 3 questions. What am I good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And what I knew was how to build modern leaders and how to create irresistible culture that drives results. So I started my company, Heartbeat for Hire. That was 2 years ago. I wrote my book called Top Down Culture, and I started a podcast. We're approaching episode 100, and it's top 5% ranked globally. But I coach C-suites on long-term engagements. I speak to companies about all of these topics, and I teach LinkedIn workshops, because that's been a real pillar for this entire thread of building this company.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And I know there's a lot more. And you know what? If you want to know more about Lyndsay, just go to LinkedIn. She's got that there. And I'm sure at the end of this, she'll tell you how else to get in touch with her. But she is amazing. Live wire. Love it. But today we are talking about leadership.
Yeah.
And in particular, we're going to sort of hone in on female leadership. But I think first of all, Lyndsay, let's just talk about, so you know, 25 years of experience.
Yeah.
How has leadership evolved in that time?
It's a great question. Leadership really has changed. And when you think about kind of the initial structure of business, it was based around manufacturing. It was very transactional. It was punch cards. It was do your job, do your shift, go home. And a lot of that kind of stayed with the modern business era, went into the white collar world, and it was very patriarchal, very transactional. Don't ask questions, just do your job. And slowly, as the business landscape began to change, and I'll emphasize slowly, and more women started to emerge in leadership roles, people started really craving a different style of leadership. And you saw the emergence of teams and people kind of building camaraderie, and there was more spirit around business. And a lot of that, I think, comes naturally from women. But what really happened and really makes everyone stand up and take notice is during the Great Resignation, which was this giant moment during the pandemic where a lot of people just said, I've had enough. I deserve to be treated better. I don't want to work like a dog for nothing and to be treated with disrespect. I'm done. And they left their jobs in droves. And so that was this moment where the pendulum swung in the favor of employees. And for this moment, all these companies were saying, okay, We need to do something differently. And don't forget, everybody was working from home.
Yeah.
So we were in each other's homes for the first time. We were seeing kids, we were seeing dogs, we were really getting a peek into people's personal lives. And what started to emerge was this need and this desire for 360-degree humans to show up and be present. Well, women speak male and speak female. We know how to navigate this patriarchal world, but at the same time, we know how to be true to ourselves. And we find solace in people that are like-minded. So we know how to navigate these paths. But the best leaders are the leaders that ask simple questions like, how can I be the best leader for you? They meet people where they are, and they also aren't afraid to be vulnerable. They embrace failure, and they do something that I talk about a lot. They hone their power skills. We don't call them soft skills around here. They are anything but soft. These
Yeah.
are the true differentiators for what good leaders possess, how they behave, and how they move through the world. And we could talk about power skills for the rest of the conversation, but that is like the true mark of good leaders. And there's so many packed in there.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Last year I did a book called Voices of Strength, which was 17 men who were stepping into their feminine energy and stepping into soft skills, and that's why I wrote the book, because there is a change, you know, and I think women are stepping up more. How do you see women's role evolving again? And you know, if you look at a industry, how is women changing and stepping into those leadership roles, and what changes is she bringing to the boardroom?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I mean, growing up in tech, I was the only woman on many teams, many teams. And so when you are the only woman, you have to model the behavior you see. And often that behavior was cutthroat and mean and not supportive of others and very insecure. And, you know, no one was ever inspired by micromanagement. Let's just put that out there.
No.
So you know, the people that did it the best were the ones who said, hey, what's your story? Tell me what are you good at? And the first time a leader asked me that, I was so gobsmacked. I was like, what's my story? How much time do you have? But I didn't, at the time, I hadn't curated my story. I hadn't really condensed it into a soundbite that would make you say, tell me more. So I was like, oh my gosh, she wants to know everything. But the reason she wanted to know was she wanted to understand my motivation. She wanted to understand what makes me tick, why I do the things I do. So she knew how to support me. She knew how to recognize me. She knew what things get Lyndsay's motor running. And so that was a really great tool I took with me forward. But I will say the biggest thing that I ever learned was, as a leader, I asked the question, how can I be the best leader for you? And when you ask that question, first, that's a humbling question. You are admitting you don't know everything. But
Yeah.
guess what? Nobody does.
No.
I don't care how qualified you are. And if you know everything, you're overqualified for the job. So when you ask that question, people's guard comes down, and it's a trust building moment. And trust is your currency. You have to build trust, or your people will not do what you want them to do. They will never rise up for you. They've got to know you've got their back. But when I ask that question, the cool thing is you get different answers from everyone you ask. And
Yeah.
that's based on age, tenure, goals, whatever. And when you understand what they want, you can provide what they need. You can advocate for them. And I will tell you, just from my own experience, when you do this for your people, they will do anything for you. We created deeply rich, fun environments. And this is not all roses and sunshine. You do this because as a leader, you have to deliver tough messages. Sometimes it's in the form of a layoff. Sometimes you have to put people on a performance plan.
Yeah.
Those aren't fun things to do. But when you are consistent and you lead with heart, it makes those moments easier. And I will tell you, just from my experience of laying people off, which was something I swore I would never get good at, and I never did. those
That's
people,
true.
like, those people would say, I'm so sorry you have to do this. I'm like, what are you apologizing to me for? I'm affecting your life in the worst way I know how. And I'm so sorry about this. We were never allowed to apologize, but they knew I was reading a script. They knew it wasn't me. They knew it was a decision over my head. But because I was consistent with my teams, always, they always knew that this isn't her. This is the situation. And I'm still close with those people today. It's
Yeah.
that is, I think, the difference. That is a modern leadership style. And I think where people get tripped up is the people that have been doing it this way for 20 years. Why do I need to change? Well, the whole world around us has changed.
Yeah.
Everything,
Mm.
technology, ChatGPT, remote work, it's all changed. Why wouldn't our leadership style need to change too? It does.
Absolutely. Everything's ever changing, you know. My little anecdote is like, you know, we're human beings and every part of us is changing and moving all the time. Our cells are
Yeah.
renewing, our hair is growing,
Yeah.
all sorts of things is happening. So I think for me, one of the things around leadership is embracing change and
Yeah.
actually forging change for the
Yes.
better. So we're talking about voices of women as well. And how do you find the use of the changing narrative and storytelling
Yeah.
in the field of leadership? And leadership seen as so many different things as you've mentioned. So have you got a great little story you can
Oh,
tell
I have
us?
so many. I have so many.
I don't even need to finish my question. It's all yours.
Sorry to interrupt. I got excited.
It's all right.
So I have two stories of two great leaders that I had, and I have one horror story. So one story was I was a client executive at IBM, very big job. I had a $150 million quota and a team of 55 people. And this client was very complicated. We were each other's partners, we were each other's clients, and we were competitors. So talk about strings attached to everything we did. Like there was a lot of eyes on us and we had a big job ahead of us. And so I was telling my new boss what my plan was. And I said, this is how I want to approach the client. This is the things I think we haven't tried before. This is what I want to try. And after a bit, she listened and she said, girl, I've got your back. Now fly. That took my breath away then. It still gives me goosebumps now. And what happened as a result of that moment was so cool. So I was so excited because all of a sudden I know if I fail, if I screw up, she's got my back. But now I'm going to really push because I trust her. And so I turned to my team and I said, guys, we have an opportunity. What haven't we tried? How can we think differently? Who haven't we spoken with? And everybody stepped up. And what happened was we closed the largest deal our two companies had ever seen. It was over $23 million. We crushed our numbers. We absolutely created a total paradigm shift with that client. And the way that we worked together really metamorphosized. And I attribute it much to that one comment and having the faith that if we screw up, someone's got our back. So that was story.
So hold on your second story because I do want to say something here because it's important. And for me, that is all about giving your team, the people that you work with, that you spend many hours with, a voice.
Yeah.
And I think when you give people room to have their own voice and be taken seriously and heard and understood as well, then you have got the absolute secret sauce of how you create an amazing team. And I'm so glad that that came out in that story, because for me, as an educator, we have to give people a voice and we have to give them responsibility, even when you think, can they do it or not? Because just like your boss said to you, I've got your back, go and fly. Even if you had any self-doubts, you knew there was someone there to catch you when you should you fall. So what did that do?
And of course you're going to fail. So how a leader embraces failure and celebrates failure and learns from failure is really important. But I think the biggest message is give your people the space to do the jobs they were hired for, which leads me to story number 2. So I had a wonderful boss. She was fantastic. She promoted me twice. And the first time she promoted me, she said, okay, you now have this big team. How do you want to run the business? And I went, me? You want to know? You really want to know? Like, you're just not going to tell me what to do? And she's like, yeah, you know more about this space than I do. You've been in it longer. How do you want to handle it? And I was so excited. I turned around and went to my team, just like I did before. I was like, you guys, we have an opportunity to do things differently. What haven't we tried? Well, I named my team Mavericks and Hustlers, and they wore that badge proudly. But that leader who said that to me, all of her managers, we would have done anything for her. We are still very dear friends to this day. We talk all the time, but she instilled such trust and faith in me, which I turned and did to my team. And we created the most exquisite environment of fun, of hustle culture in the best way, not the gross way.
Yeah.
And it was really, really profound. So just two really great leadership lessons. Now, you want to hear what not to do?
Yeah, go on. Tell the audience.
Terrible. So the company that fired me, the woman that ultimately fired me, she had very light, if any, power skills. And she said to me after a call one time, she said, I don't like how you represented yourself on that call. I don't like how you represented the company. You did a terrible job. Fix it for next time. Well, how do you think I did the next time? I sucked.
We're on this spiral downward, aren't we? Yeah.
I was so worried about the words coming out of my mouth, about I couldn't rely on my instincts. I couldn't rely on my sense of humor. I couldn't rely on all of my powerful, my superpowers. And that role, I was so anxious. I wasn't sleeping. I would wake up at 2 a.m. and race downstairs questioning myself. Did I send an email? Did I respond to this person? When a leader instills doubt in someone, you will never get good performance, ever. And everyone saw what she was doing. And so when I had to get things from my team, she wanted a true micromanager, something I refused to be. Yeah. My team knew this, and they knew that I didn't want to do that. So they would say, what do you need to get her off your back? Like, they were helping me. It was so tragic and such a terrible example of leadership. And that woman was an incredible individual contributor. That's where she belonged. She should never have been managing people.
I mean, I know from my own experience, my thing is always about helping people to develop being proactive by creating space that they're allowed to fill, because they've never been given the opportunity before. Right. They've never been given a belief that they can do it, and I think, as I was a teacher for 25 years, that's the thing that was instilled in me. You would tell the children and your team and parents, you can do it. If you want to do it, you can do it, so with that in mind, I talk about the I can mindset, how would you say that you use your voice today with that I can mindset to achieve way beyond what even you think you can achieve?
Well, I think had I not been shoved out of the nest, I would never have started Heartbeat for Hire. And my true purpose in life became very clear. And that was, I want to change and modernize leadership as we know it. So between my book, my podcast, LinkedIn, all my social platforms, I speak a lot. I am casting as wide a net as I know how, because you can't know how to behave if you've never had a good leader. And when I poll a room and say, raise your hands if you've ever had a bad leader, 100% of the room, without any hesitation, raises their hand. If I say, now, how many of you have had a great leader? Barely half, maybe. And I have met so many people that have said, I've never had a great leader. So you can't be what you can't see. And
no, exactly.
This is why I tell so many stories. This is why I do my podcast. This is why I put so many stories in my book, because I want people to have, don't do this, do this, and like make it as easy as possible. Because if you have never experienced it, how could you possibly be that great? Some people have that innately, but leadership is a learned experience. And they teach tactical leadership. They teach, these are the sort of things you do as a manager, but they haven't been focused on power skills. And
No.
that is what makes modern leaders. And that's the piece that I really feel like needs an amplifier.
Yeah, I
So,
definitely resonate 100% with you, Lyndsay, for sure. It's as you say, you're not calling them soft skills, they're power skills, and it is, and we can all use this, like my little story about the book, Voice of Strength. They
yep.
are interchangeable, and even as women, we need to go between male and female
Yes.
sides, at the left and right hand side of our brain, feminine energy, masculine energy. We can't stay in one energy. We have to have something called flow, and yeah. So voices of women, when you hear a phrase, a title like that, voices of women, what does it conjure up for you?
Well, I think women have been politely waiting for their seat at the table long enough. And now we're just pulling up chairs. And this, I think, is an important work. I feel like I've been really fortunate to surround myself with incredible women who inspire me, who challenge me, who cheer me on. And the amount of times any entrepreneur will tell you, it would be a lot easier to just go catch a paycheck instead of, trying to build something yourself. But every time I do that, I'm reminded by these women, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Keep going. Keep going. We've got you. And I wouldn't do any of this without that support system. So I think when I think of voices of women, we have incredible stories that some have been told. There's a lot that still need to be told. But for me, I'm a natural storyteller. And that's the first question I ask on my show. Tell us your story. I want to know, like, what was the vulnerable thing that you had to overcome that got you to where you are today? And that's what
Absolutely.
I think people are really interested in.
Absolutely. And when I started on this journey, it was all at first it was about adversity and what you overcame and who did you become because of it? What did you build because of it? Because a lot of women in my book Voice of Hope, there's a lot of female stories in there of women who were like totally downtrodden.
Yeah.
They were out, but there was something in them. I call it a pivotal moment that ignited, and they used it for the betterment of themselves and for others. So in terms of those power skills for the younger women coming up, and I know some great kids who are great leaders
Yeah.
already,
Mhm.
what would you say are the three main traits a great leader, you've used that word, a modern day great
Yeah.
leader needs to have? How would you nurture these young women to become great leaders?
The first thing I would say that every woman needs to do, regardless of age, is leverage recognition. And this is a power skill that you use to lift others up. And you don't have to be a people leader to do this. If you are working on a team and you see someone has done something impressive, tell them, tell the whole team, tell whoever it is you're working with, I see you. That was fantastic. I want to learn more from you. A candle doesn't lose its light by lighting another candle. So when you think about how you can lift others up, it always looks good on you. They are not a threat to your experience or your knowledge. So when you are seen as a generous leader or a generous employee, that looks good on you. So always lift others up. I think that's really, really important. The second thing I would do is don't sleep on this. This was something that I did. I was on LinkedIn since 2006. The only time I went out to LinkedIn was when I got an award, I got a promotion, or I got passed over for a promotion and I was mad and I wanted to go find a new job. And then I got distracted and I didn't know how to use it. And I was like, then go back to what I was doing.
Love it.
So the one thing that I would tell you is you are never too young or too old to build your personal brand. And it's so important for you to figure out, who do I want to project into the world? It's not the job you're doing now. You are so much more than your job. But what is it that you want people to know about you? And it is not set in stone. You can change it anytime. So it's yours. It's your brand. But what people have to remember, when someone Googles you, your LinkedIn page is the first thing that comes up. That is your landing page. So make it speak for you. But use LinkedIn to curate a list of people who inspire you. The amount of women that I have met over the last 2 years who knock my socks off and blow me away all the time, who have become my friends and my accountability partners, I am so grateful for them. But you know what? I also pay it forward. I have a bunch of women that look up to me and say, can I call you sometime and ask you for feedback? I'm like, absolutely, because people do this for me. So you always want to pay it forward. You always want to help people, lift others up behind you. It's just so important. And you have to remember, you are modeling behavior. So if you're out there trash talking, somebody thinks you're cool and they think that must be cool too. If you're out there lifting others up, that's what they're going to find power in.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing. And I would just say, this is one thing I teach in coaching: build your brag book. And your brag book is every time you've been recognized, every time you've received a promotion. I kept a folder in my email called Pats on the Back. If somebody sent my boss an email, that went right in there. If someone sent me an email, that went right in there. And on those bad days, you go back and look at it. But you know why you keep this? And this is a living document. This travels with you, because
Oh,
when you interview for that next job, you want it fresh. You want it right there. You want it at your fingertips, because they're going to say, oh, have you ever done this? And then you'll be like, actually, yes, I have. In fact, I won an award for that. And so it's right there at your fingertips. But remember, anytime something good happens, it goes right in that brag book. And that's electronic and it travels with you and it goes throughout your life.
oh my goodness, you can see I'm super excited. So for those who are actually watching this video, you'll see I got highly animated because I coach and teach a brag bag. And again, we do it both ways. We do it digitally. So you have your brag bag folder and exactly everything in it.
Yep. So important.
And then, but also to make it 3D for some people, find a beautiful bag that you've got that you don't use, and then get your post-its or your little bits of colored paper and write something on it and put it in the bag. And like that, on those days when, imposter syndrome sets in, self-doubt, all the things that no matter how much experience and awards you've got, we have those days. You can then go back and remind yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm not as rubbish as I think I am. And actually, I can do this,
Yes. I have one more comment on that. Remember, these are your accomplishments. These are facts. These are not feelings. Don't confuse the two. So women have this feeling that if they talk about themselves, they sound braggadocious. They sound, oh, she's so full of herself. Women, stop that. That is nonsense. If you did something, gosh darn it, I wrote a book. I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I am proud of that. I'm almost at episode 100 on my podcast. It's in the top 5% globally. That is a fact. That is not a feeling. I will talk about that. And this is what women need to do. And this is not something a lot of us are good at, but they are facts, not feelings. So put that in your brag book and remember it.
I love it. Well, I think we've just about come to the end of this conversation. There's chat, it's not a discussion, it's definitely a chat, good Scottish word there. But anyway, Lyndsay, I could probably talk to you all day long. There's just so much, and I know we haven't even got 0.0001 of the tip of your iceberg, never mind what's all going on underneath. But I just want to thank you so much. I'm so humbled and privileged that you've said yes to being part of Voices of Women, which will go out in the summer. And it's important, like everything that you said today. I absolutely hear you. I salute you as a sister. As I said at the start of this chat, you know, behind every great woman is another great woman. And it's in this sisterhood that we need to come together and we create the change that we want to see in the world, first by being that change. Right. And you've certainly illustrated to us why you are where you are today in your life. And I know, you know, you're a scintillating star, a galaxy of stars. And you even talked about those ripples of brilliance. So I'll give you one last word. Anything else you want to say?
Oh, I want people to lead with heart, be kind to each other, lift each other up, be the change you want to see, and don't wait for someone else to do it for you.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, you've heard it there. You've heard it from the horse's mouth. You've heard it from the beautiful, the glorious Lyndsay Dowd. So until next time, this is Brenda saying, be brilliant, much love, and toodle pip.
That's it for this episode of Brilliance Today. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For more information or to contact Book Brilliance Publishing, visit bookbrilliancepublishing.com. And remember, do different. Be brilliant.